We've got the latest on WWE's ID booking controversy. We've got an update on a lawsuit against Tony Khan, AEW and CM Punk. And WWE are making a major announcing change. Stay tuned for all the deets. Now, WWE ID has been, it's been sort of at the forefront of a lot of people's minds recently. It was a thing that was announced and it kind of started to build up a bit of momentum, and now it's hit the ground running. We're seeing WWE ID matches being featured on WWE social media. We're seeing talents that are signed to these ID deals being prominently sort of positioned around independents all over the place. And essentially, it's kind of like, okay, so these are WWE contracted independent wrestlers, but they're able to work, pretty much anywhere they want.
Yeah.
But in this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that according to one talent's WWE ID contract, that Gabe Sapolsky puts the matches together and will give the scripts for those matches to the promoters to book. It was claimed that the promoter would then pay the talent and in turn could push the talent as part of WWE all over their branding, marketing, and everything else. And it was also, alongside this, noted that WWE would cover the travel costs with a stipend, but the promoter would pay the difference should the costs be larger than the stipend/bursary that was given. This was immediately swatted down
very
within 4
quickly
minutes by Brett Lauderdale. Sorry. Basically, Brett Lauderdale came out, took to social media and said, Gabe doesn't put the matches together. I've never seen or heard of a script. We are allowed to push WWE ID talent on announcements, but we don't. Not aware of any travel stipend or travel share, but that would be cool.
Yeah, then he kind of elaborated even further on social media by responding to people who were asking if WWE has booking control directly, and he said, no, there has never been any discussions about winning/losing, and they've never asked, dictated, requested, or solicited anything when it pertains to WWE ID talent. There is no distinction or separate rules for ID versus ID matches. That was something when I initially heard that report, I was thinking, well, maybe that is just for when you want to have a WWE contracted guy versus another WWE contracted guy so that WWE has full control over that match. But Brett Lauderdale coming out there and saying that's not the case.
And then Defy Wrestling, one of the most prominent independent promotions in the world right now, responded to Brett's post saying Brett is spot on. Similarly, WWE ID talent Zeta Steele responded and said she sort of just dismissed it, said, wait, what?
Yeah.
So Fightful Sean Ross Sapp then reported after this that numerous performers and promotions have claimed that they've never been sent a script regarding WWE ID talent use and that they've not heard of talent stipends. So there seems to be a lot of crossed wires going on for the old Observer here. But at the same time, the only thing that I thought I could rationalize this idea of any creative control would surely be if there's the WWE ID title. It might be, you can't just give the title to somebody, like somebody can't just beat the champion, but we're not there yet with it.
I think
it's sort of that's probably the only time they'd want to exert any sort of control would be they can't lose that, but you can sort of
have them
the
do
match,
whatever,
but they can't lose the title.
Yeah, I feel like that is maybe, as you mentioned, the cross wires there. That feels like the only logical place, and the reason that it's not happened yet is because the title's not actually been given to anyone yet.
It's interesting though, because the crossed wires can't be too crossed.
No.
It seems that this stipend thing has maybe come from thin air. Nobody seems to know about that. So I guess more on this as it goes on. But as WWE ID grows, and come on, give us some WWE ID UK talents. Come on,
get
some over here.
Get some working on shows.
But essentially, I think that it's one of those things where maybe in very specific circumstances down the line, we might see a little bit of don't do that. But I don't think it's going to go much further than that.
Yeah.
And the fact that, Gabe's supposedly putting matches together, everybody's going, no, he's not. It's all right. Well, Observer, don't know what's going on there. But we've got a really interesting social media post last night that sort of took us all by surprise. Joe Hendry in Times Square, I believe.
Yeah, he was,
announced on his social media that he's going to be appearing in a video game soon. He didn't specify what game it's going to be, but he promised it'll be revealed soon. He said he'd been meeting with various video game developers, not just one. So we're going to see Joe Hendry appearing.
Look,
so
when you say his name, he will appear, and that is what he has been pushing. He has been pushing to be in a video game for a very, very long time now. He's been pushing again at WWE games. We don't know if that's going to happen. It's certainly not happening this year.
So much sense.
It would be great if he was in there. But where does he end up? He was campaigning for GTA. He was campaigning for PUBG. He was campaigning for Fortnite, I believe.
Well, GTA, rich history in Scotland. It's where it all started.
Exactly.
Joe Hendry, rich history in Scotland. It's
the
where he all
local
started.
hero is coming to Grand Theft
They're
Auto.
scrapping the characters. Joe Hendry is the new
He's
lead
the
in
lead.
GTA 6. You heard it here first. But what do you think feasibly? It'd be interesting to see him something like Fortnite, where it is like a mass appeal game.
Yeah.
You would see a lot of people maybe who didn't know who he was. Like kind of having to find out who he was. But there seems to just be so many different places because the industry's wider than it's ever been. It's huge.
Right, so this is purely based on the video, and obviously it's Times Square, and there's lots of advertisements all over the place, but there was a PUBG logo in the background on one of the big screens. If it wasn't just happenstance and coincidence that there was a PUBG logo appearing, then I would maybe favor that one. I would like if it was... Hell, if it was Call of Duty, that'd be pretty cool.
Call of Duty would be
as
big.
an operator in Call of Duty.
We could just get rid of Angry Birds and call it Angry Joe's.
Angry Joe's. Cooking Mama, Cooking Joe.
Jokemon Go. There's loads of stuff we can do now, aren't there? Get on the phone. You got to capture different Joe Hendrys, and it's just the same one every time it turns around.
Gonna be the very best.
Yeah, you can do all the music. Come on.
Good. Do it, Joe, please.
Yeah. But keeping it with TNA here, Nick Nemeth surprised everybody in TNA by turning heel at the conclusion of last night's Sacrifice 10-man tag team steel cage match. Now, after the babyface team won, Nick's brother Ryan Nemeth began locking the steel cage door before Nick Nemeth then hit Matt Hardy with the Danger Zone. Ryan then played defense while swinging a chair at anybody attempting to get into the cage as Nick continued to beat down Hardy and scrape his face like a cheese grater across the cage.
That's got to hurt.
The Nemeth boys are at it again. Those damn Nemeth boys.
The Nemeth boys, the dirty dogs, the new dirty dogs, essentially. Nemeth as a heel makes more sense for me, both of them.
Yeah.
But Nick Nemeth in particular, if you've got him in TNA, his best stuff was always as the cocky douche that you want to smack, rather than the face that is like, hey, I'm really good and I'm better than everyone.
And I think, every good Top Gun needs his co-pilot. So it just sort of, it lines up nicely.
Exactly.
Yeah. But on the point of Ryan Nemeth, we've got the interesting situation still surrounding the lawsuit that he raised against AEW, Tony Khan, and CM Punk. Now, AEW and Tony Khan have filed a petition yesterday in the federal court of Florida seeking to compel arbitration in the lawsuit filed against them by TNA's Ryan Nemeth. Both Khan and AEW have argued that it should be adjudicated through private arbitration rather than going to public court. So they want to settle this outside of court rather than letting it drag out
with an
in
unbiased third party that allows to settle it.
Nemeth had filed the lawsuit in February against AEW, Tony Khan, and CM Punk, which accuses Punk of physical threats, Khan of enabling the behavior of Punk, and AEW for effectively blacklisting Nemeth from wrestling. His claims include assault, breach of contract, and deliberate interference of his career prospects. So it's pretty big thing
big claims,
they're going to have to settle here. The filing also only pertains to AEW and Tony Khan, but not CM Punk. AEW and Khan are also asking that Nemeth be responsible for AEW's attorney fees in regards to the lawsuit, according to Post Wrestling. Yeah,
it's quite a big story. It's one that's been slowly moving along, but we've been waiting for any filing. So this is just the next step. It was assumed that this would be the next step in the thing. We're still waiting on an actual response from Ryan Nemeth. That wasn't
especially
detailed.
if AEW are seeking their attorney fees to be covered. You think this is probably going to go into private arbitration?
Probably quite expensive.
Yeah,
probably quite expensive.
Very expensive, I'd imagine. So any more news on that? I guess we will keep you updated. It seems to be moving forward though, so expect some more news in the near future. But we've got a bit of a sad update now to end the video on. We're going to go to end things. But Lillian Garcia announced last night after SmackDown that it was her last show as a full-time ring announcer for WWE SmackDown, confirming that she's going to be moving on from the blue brand, but she's still going to ring announce Saturday night's main event alongside some new projects with WWE that she didn't go into too much detail about. It is currently unknown who is set to replace her, though.
It is a shame that that's her run ended when she came back to replace Samantha Irvin. It did feel like, she's back full time. This is the new thing. We've got Lillian back. It's a shame to see her go, but I understand with this, as she said in the video that she posted on social media, this is a new era, and it's time for someone new to take over. Maybe I don't know who. Maybe it's someone brand new. Maybe it's someone
Possibly.
NXT. Maybe it's someone they're already doing. Maybe double duty.
You know, I'm more excited about these new projects, and my brain's ran away with it already, as it always does. You know what I'm like. But it's a fascinating part of the industry that I don't think gets enough looked at. Or gets enough looked at. You can tell I've been up really early. Doesn't get looked at enough. Is ring announcers are very important. They set mood, they set pace, they set tone. I mean, the Fink is burned into my brain. It's just sort of like Lillian was a huge part of my childhood as a wrestling fan as well. And it's like, I would be very interested to see Lillian either looking back at ring announcers past, or an in-depth look at the job, or potentially, because we know they love a game show or a game show format, potentially a search for a new ring announcer.
Interesting.
She would make such a good person to sort of train
host something,
and to hone the skills of people who are able to control their voice in that manner.
I really like that idea, but for me personally, I think it's going to be that, but she's just there in NXT to help and have an announcers and work with the talent there and be like, okay, look, your wrestling prospects aren't your prospects aren't great.
She's still got a podcast and everything, right? So she's got a lot going on outside of WWE sphere before she even returned. So you've got to imagine that's all kind of still be mounting up, and now you're doing SmackDown full time. But I'm excited to see what the future holds for Lillian in WWE, because she's huge part of my wrestling childhood. So yeah, if there's any more wrestling news, we will be back later on. Please just check out everything else on the channel that's coming this weekend. We got a load of stuff lined up. There's a mega list coming tomorrow, I believe. So get ready for that.
You can watch on the Patreon
you can watch
now.
On the Patreon right now.
You can watch on the Patreon right now if you sign up.
Patreon.com/Cultaholic. We've rebranded all of the tiers. We've done everything.
Many
There's
cool
loads
rewards.
of new stuff, loads of new rewards. Do check it out, and you can even get your name on the screen like all of these wonderful people down here.
Right now.
Look at them.
Look.
We'll
That
keep
could be
going a
you.
bit longer this time, because last time we were like point, and they all kind of went off at the same time. So we're just going to keep pointing down. Oh, look at those sexy people.
Very
Amazing.
nice.
Right, tatty bye.